Hey, I'm T.A. Charlie, and welcome to the Road to Concord with Professor Joe Bakanovic. Homeroom is on Rumble. You just go to Rumble and search channels for the Road to Concord. It's one word. When you find it, you go ahead and you click follow. It might mean you got to set up an account, but it's fast, it's easy, it's free. I did it, you can do it. For those technologically challenged members of the class, you can also catch us on Facebook and YouTube. After the show, it's uploaded to Podbean, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and BitChute. Just look for The Road to Concord. You can go to the blog page, that's theroadtoconcord.com. That's where you'll find all your show notes, study notes, and handouts for the class. The phone is working. If you don't know how to call in, email us and we'll think about it. Finally, you can email a professor at joe@theroadtoconcord.com. He's a little slow, but he'll eventually get around to emailing you back. This show is currently mainly listener-sponsored. If you are interested in advertising your business on the show, please email us. With that said, we ask for your participation on a value-for-value basis. If you find our show of value to you, then you provide an equivalent portion of your labor and treasure through the donate link on the Road to Concord blog page, the show description on Rumble, and in the comments on the other streams. And thank you to all of you who have and will support this show.
Good morning. Welcome to the Road to Concord. Today is Monday, April 27th. I am your host, Joe Bakanovic. And as the title of the show says today, where can we turn for truth and how do we recognize it? I realized that I should have also asked, what the heck is truth? And I'm not going to run you to the dictionary today. I'm not going to do that to you today. I'm going to plop you here. This is in book of John, chapter 18, start verse 37. It says, therefore, Pilate said to him, so you are a king? And Yeshua answered, you say correctly that I am king. Now, correctly is a gloss. We added that. The Greek would say, you say that I am a king. For this I have been born, and for this I have come into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice. And Pilate said to him, what is truth? I'm wondering, what exactly is truth? What do we mean by truth? It's got me philosophical mode today. And it's a good question. Do we mean facts? Because facts change as we learn. So if we find out that something that we thought was once true isn't, fact, science, and then we change our position. Once upon a time, the smallest thing was an atom. That was a fact. Well, then when you find out that the atoms have electrons, neutrons, and protons, oh crap. The atom being the smallest thing wasn't a fact after all. So it's electrons, neutrons, and protons. And then they say, well, it's quarks, lipids, and other things at the subatomic particle level, quantum physics. Oh, ding, dang, darn. So it isn't electrons, protons, and neutrons. Well, what makes you think that it is now a fact that it's the subatomic, quantum level particles? Maybe they have smaller particles. So what we think of as a fact, is that truth? Scientific facts. Because, it was once a scientific fact that the Earth is at the center of the universe and of the solar system, and everything revolved around it. Now we don't believe that anymore. So this thing about science, this is why the philosopher in me tells you that science never proves anything, because it can't. So why do we make it into a religion? If you understand the scientific method, it cannot prove anything to you. There are very few things that you can call a fact. One of the very few that I'm aware of in the Greek Western civilization tradition is a definition. Now, you can argue with the definition, or you can argue that it should be expanded or contracted. But once a definition is set, then if something meets the requirements or the terms of that definition, that's a fact. And that's why logisticians and philosophers will say, by definition. I'll give you a good example of this. Just this last week, I upset a whole bunch of libertarians because Facebook gave me their feed, on my feed, gave me one of their threads in which they're saying that if you're truly for liberty, you should be advocating for pure anarchy because that's the best way to live. That's the freest, most open, most just, as in justice, way to live. And I made the comment, I said, bull. I said, pure anarchy, true anarchy is total tyranny of the one. And I had somebody come back and tell me that I needed to go spend some time learning what this means, because they explained to me how anarchy is. It's total voluntary, interactions with all other humans on earth, and nobody tramples on anybody's rights, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I just posted the definition of anarchy. It's lawlessness, total lawlessness. Well, that's the opposite of what that person was defining anarchy as being. So to my post all I did was post the definition and told that person, I said, you just made my point, because they had redefined anarchy. So you made my point, and I posted the definition and a link to it. So I get another reply from another, anarchist, supposed libertarian, telling me that I had to go learn some philosophy before I spoke about things I didn't understand. So I told him, that's funny. I have a philosophy degree. And I said, if you're going to purport to be a philosopher, I would suggest you go learn what the philosophical term by definition means and why that's so important to this discussion. And I put by definition in quotations. You've heard me use that a lot on this show, because when a philosopher, speaking in tight terms of logic, classic, basic logic, says by definition, well, now what we're saying is this is a fact with which we cannot rationally argue. So if I tell you that by definition water is wet, now it's a colloquialism, okay? Don't quibble. That's a fallacy. You know what I mean by water is wet. It feels wet. Water feels wet. Well, if I want to get really scientifically specific here, I should say liquid water, it feels wet, because ice doesn't necessarily feel wet until it melts in your hand. And water vapor doesn't necessarily feel wet unless, of course, you're at dew point temperature, in which case it's not really water vapor anymore. Now it's liquid water again. I mean, we could play this game all day long, but colloquially, you know what I mean by liquid water. Water, raindrops, water in the cup, or whatever. You know what I mean by it feels wet. That's the definition of wet. We know that water meets that definition of wet. Lots of liquids do. And this can still get very complicated, especially if you're going to let the lawyers in on the game, where they want to twist the language to extract any meaning they want out of it. So what do we mean by truth? And in a day and age like we're in right now, that's becoming more and more important as we go on. How do you define truth? Now, here on this show, we use little t truth and capital T truth. For us, by the definition we have set, capital T truth, now we're using it on this show, so the context here of capital T truth is context of our show. Capital T truth is objective reality. The truth that applies to everybody, everything, every plant, every animal, every rock, every tree, every planet, every person, every morally accountable individual sentient being in the entire universe. That's objectively true. Well, that's going to be hard to ascertain, because Science can give you a probability that you understand what truth is, but it can never prove it. So how do you prove beyond shadow of a doubt what is and isn't true? It's not as easy as you might think. About the only thing I can prove are those things that have very tight definitions. Occasionally, you'll come up with a very simple, very tight, strictly deductible argument with a conclusion that cannot be avoided. Simple one. In an environment where gravity operates the way we understand gravity on this planet, if I jump from the top of a building without any type of life-saving apparatus from a tall building, the Empire State Building, I'm going to go splat and die. The conclusion being splat and die, because gravity is going to pull me to the ground at terminal velocity. And when I hit the ground, the differential speed is going to kill me. That's going to be a pretty hard one to, if I put enough quibbling little restrainers in the argument, it's going to be a hard argument to get away from. But there's always the chance that somehow or another, you're going to hit an awning, which bounces you onto another awning, which bounces you onto a fruit stand that collapses in 3 or 4 shelves, and it just slows down the momentum. What is it called? The moment of inertia. You don't hit the ground and come to a sudden stop. You slow down gradually, and you might actually survive that with a bunch of broken bones. Okay. Experience tells us that's not going to happen, especially around the Empire State Building. But okay, I see. Can't prove anything. Nothing's definitive. So again, back to our question. What is truth? Why does it matter? If you build your life on assumed truths that turn out not to be truth, that can wreck a person. I mean, you can ruin them depending on how it happens, what it is. If you have some sort of worldview that you've worked out such that you're reasonably sure you understand the world, so you've got your own truth that you're living by. Now that can provide comfort and confidence and security and help you to live less fearfully. That's a benefit for the individual. But is it true? By what definition of true? How are you using true? This isn't it's a philosophical question and discussion. It's a philosopher's world to live in. But it's something that everybody should ask themselves at some point in their life. They should have this discussion with themselves and wrestle through it. Because Pilate is not making he might have said it flippantly in real life, what is truth? He might have been being sarcastic. But the question in the Gospel of John it's not a trivial question. Like today, our day and age, our world, the shooting at the White House Correspondence Dinner. Let's just use that as an illustration. What's true? What do we know about what happened, and what facts? A definition of fact, something that's true. By definition of fact is true. Well, we might assign fact to something that isn't a fact, in which case we gave it the wrong word, wrong label, because it wasn't a fact. It didn't meet the definition. But okay, let's just assume for now. Fact, something that we know is to be true. What facts do we know from this story? Well, there was a shooting. Do you know that? Do you know that? Well, yeah, Joe, everybody's, yeah. They said, in a world that we know is heavily regulated, the media, even social media, AI can fake anything it wants now. How do you know that the shooting happened? How do you know who actually did the shooting? How do you know how do you know anything about this? We live in a world where the established pattern seems to be that they lie to us as a routine. That's just it. They lie so easily and so often now that I don't even think the people doing the lying realize they're lying anymore, telling us things that are not the case, not true. So now, if we're going to live in a democracy, I mean, that's another one of the lies. We're not a democracy. We're supposed to be a democratic republic. If we were a democracy, they would not be trying to kill the president. Well, Joe, I want my votes to count. They did. Well, Joe, the Electoral College, that's not democracy. You're right. That's representative democracy. It was designed to be a republic, not a straight democracy. Well, we're going to make it one by hook and by crook. Well, technically, it won't be legal. Not that we care about that anymore. Well, if all the states get together and say that we're going to give our electoral votes to the popular vote, that's not what the Constitution calls for. Not that anybody cares. And why would you care about a straight democracy? That's tyranny of the masses. Literally, it is. Remember, in a group of 100, we're going to vote. We've got 51 women and 49 men. And we're going to vote, should rape be legal? I'm pretty sure it's going to be voted no, it can't be. It's not going to be legal. Now I have 100 people. I have 49 Western women, Christians, and 51 Muslim men. Should rape be legal? Well, ladies, it's democracy. Sucks to be you, because I know how that vote. 51 faithful Muslim men, Shiites. And I know how that vote's coming out. Then you're going to, well, the law says, what's the law matter? It's the vote, right? Well, in a representative democracy, we have to have some assurance that we have the truth of what's going on with our leadership, so that we know how to vote, who to vote for, what things to support and what not to support. So tell me something, and be honest with me. Is there a single person in Washington, D.C. that has not lied to you or appears to have lied to you? Can't say that about Rand or Ron Paul. Can't say that about Ted Cruz. Can't say that about Matt Gaetz, Green, Trump. Can't say that about him. I'm being honest about this. I'm being sincere, serious. I can't think of a single person that has not, in my opinion, lied to me at least once. And I mean bold-faced lied, not changed their mind, lied. Said they were going to do something that they never had any intention of doing. I can't think of a one. So how do you know what to believe when these people talk to you? And can you think of anybody in the quote-unquote media that has not intentionally, purposefully lied to you, including Fox News? I can't. That's why I quit listening to Glenn Beck. I caught Glenn in several lies, bold, intentional lies. They were on purpose. He promised me he'd never do that. I quit giving him my money. I quit watching. I don't trust him. Now, that, I'm going to need a little help with this. I don't think I'm smart enough to figure this one out. Charlie, I need your help, brother. Come on in here. What entity, person, personality, whatever, what force, what political party do you know of that thrives on chaos and lies?
Both.
Can you think of one? Yeah. So if they both thrive off of chaos, yes, it does. So if they're both thriving off of chaos and lies, what truth can we deduce about them, about both parties?
Well, that they're they're not from above. I'll tell you that.
Yes. But why would we want to join ourselves to one of those parties if we know they both, well, one lies more than, I don't care. You're giving your voice to a party that you know lies to you.
NPA.
No party affiliation.
Yes.
Now, if you willingly align with a party that you know lies, what does that make you? You're giving your political voice to a party that you know lies. What does that make you?
Makes you a liar too. At least supporting a liar. So by association.
Yes. So why should anybody trust you?
Yeah, good point.
This comes down to trust to me.
Yeah.
How
it's
do
like
you know
I'm watching the midterm, political ads on TV now, and I'm going to go to Washington and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to do this. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're not going to do any of those things, because the minute you walk into Washington, even if your intention was to do those things, the minute you start trying to do those things, they're going to slam you on the head and pound you and beat you down until you can't walk anymore. And then you'll do whatever.
Or send you to Epstein's Island to get blackmail evidence
that
on
too.
you and then
Yeah.
shut you
Well,
down.
yeah. Or they'll use whatever means necessary.
But Joe, Epstein's Island got shut down. You haven't paid attention, have you, boys and girls? There was more than one island out there. What? You didn't hear about that? Whoopsie. There's also more than one Epstein. Ask P. Diddy.
I wouldn't doubt that.
So the author of lies, according to our worldview, is Satan, right? He's the father of lies and deception. If he succeeds in creating a world where we can't trust anybody, where does that leave us? Everybody starts doing what they think's right, correct?
Yeah. Gee, days of Noah. Yeah.
Well, technically it's the days of Judges, but because in the days of Noah, nobody was righteous except Noah. So there was only one person doing anything right. And that was Noah. But it leaves us in the days of Judges. That wasn't a very good time either.
No, that wasn't.
Because if everybody's doing what they think's right, that's anarchy. It's the tyranny of the individual, because everybody thinks that they are their own God. They can determine what's right for themselves and for everybody else in the world. Because I got a little news flash for anarchists. Well, I only worry about me. You just determine what I have to do. You just did. You painted a box for how I'm supposed to react in relation to your belief system. You just decided for me and never even bothered to stop and think about what is truth. Because if you did, you'd realize that you are a tyrant. You just expect me to willingly fall into your tyranny and obey you and agree with you. Charlie, I don't know what to do with the world anymore. Where do we go to find truth? Can't even go to the Bible anymore, because I've got 95 bazillion people out there, same passage, and I get 95 bazillion teachings on what the passage means.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's true, but
well,
like
spiritually,
I'm working on this little thing that I'm working on right now, and it's like, if you just read the text, it tells you what to do. I mean, without trying to read anything into it, if you just read the text and you follow what it says, and you apply logic and mathematics, even in this case, it's a slam dunk. I don't know how they got to where they're at with their position.
No, it isn't.
Well, it's not.
The law's been nailed to the cross. It was done away. I read the text. I don't have to follow the law anymore.
Oh. Well, yeah, if you look at it that way, I suppose you could just wipe the slate clean and start all over with lawlessness. But then, you're ignoring other scriptures that say,
exactly.
The law
but do you
is still
see the
here.
problem?
Well, I know.
Constitution's the same way. Shall not be infringed.
Infringed. Yeah. What does that mean? Oh, reasonable gun control, right?
Doesn't say that.
No, it does not say that.
It says that you're not supposed to have a machine gun. It didn't say that. It said arms.
No, it didn't. It said arms.
And the co-author of that amendment defined arms, all the weapons, the terrible weapons of the common soldier.
Yep.
Well, Joe, the common soldier doesn't have nukes. You want to bet?
Oh, yes, they do.
When I was in Desert Storm, there was a unit off to the side.
Nukes? Right,
yes, exactly. There was a unit off to the side, all by their little old lonesome, and they were in direct control of the nukes. Well, Joe, they had a commander above them, not the people in the vehicle that had the nuke. They were mobile artillery. There were 5 of them, I believe, and they were flying the pendant of nuclear weapons. So what it meant is those 4 soldiers in that mobile artillery self-propelled gun had nukes on board.
And let me say this as best I can without violating any classification. In general, troops in that position, if they have orders, and they have they're highly classified orders, and they even have orders that say what to do if they lose connection with their higher authorities, and at what point they can act autonomously under those orders in certain very hopefully rare situations and things like that. So to say that they're not able to employ those weapons without communicating to their higher authority may not necessarily be the truth, depending upon what their orders say.
And if you
did
think,
I do that in a way that doesn't violate any classified?
Yes.
Okay, good.
To the best of mine, yeah. Well, Joe, it takes 2 people to turn the key for submarine launched ballistic missiles and intercontinental ballistic missiles, but it doesn't take 2 people to launch a tactical nuke out of a piece of artillery. It takes
I don't know about tactical. Yeah, tactical, I don't know about.
It takes 1. All you have to do is ram the round in the tube, close the breech, arm the trigger, pull the trigger. That's it. One man can do it.
And keep in mind when we're talking tactical nukes, okay? When you're talking, submarine based, Hiroshima and Nagasaki are the size
tactical nukes.
Those are tactical nukes today. Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas your submarine launched and your ICBMs, those are usually, they're usually megatons or
Joe,
higher.
The nuke over Hiroshima killed the city. That's because Hiroshima and Nagasaki both sat inside mountain bases.
Inside mountains, yes. They were perfect for the use of an airburst nuclear weapon. We could go into all that, but and most of the SLBMs and ICBMs also have MIRVs, so you've got multiple warheads.
You're killing multiple cities at the same time.
Yes,
but the point being, ultimately, is it meant arms, but we have just read it away. Just like, it's a living document. We can reinterpret it any way we want with each generation. Then it's not a law. Well, it is, Joe. Well, you just redefined law. So if I can redefine the meaning of a word to suit my purposes at any given time, is there truth in the language you're using?
Right.
No. So how do we communicate? You don't. You're talking at each other. If I cannot depend on the words you're using meaning what I think they mean, I might as well be doing math. 2 + 3 is 20, and 20 - 1 is 55,000. Well, Joe, that doesn't make sense. Yes, it does. It makes perfect sense. You just don't understand. And that's where we're at now. And what it all comes down to is you can't trust. Do you know what is destroyed when you can't trust anybody and anything? Relationship. The relationship of the people to the government, the people to the church, the people to the media, the people to the schools, the people to each other, family to family, husband to wife. Relationship is destroyed. What do you have? Utter, total, complete lawlessness. And when you remove God from the equation with utter, complete, total lawlessness, you have Sheol. Relationship rests on truth. I remove truth, I destroy society. So how do you know what is and isn't true? You have to have a set of standards, like weights, balance weights. fair weight measures. You have to have a standard by which you judge everything you do. Everything you see, everything you say, everything you hear has to be judged against a standard. What standard do you choose? And why? That's a personal question you have to answer for yourself. And if you never answer it, then the standard you accept is whichever one I can convince you to accept at any given moment. And you will forever live the life of a rudderless ship tossed about on a stormy sea. Rudderless, sailless, oarless. And if you know anything about ships on a sea that have no means of propulsion or steerage, it's just a matter of time until you're shipwrecked. Flounder, swamp, capsize. You ain't going to make it. Got anything you want to say before we go to the bottom of the hour break, Charlie? It's a happy, happy, joy Monday.
Yeah,
Yeah, we should rename it. Not Manic Mondays. Happy, happy, joy Monday. We're being facetious here. It's opposite time.
Yes. Oh,
it's Ren and Stimpy Monday.
I believe that would count as false advertising.
Why? What is false about it?
Yes. What is false? You knew I was being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Or
we have to go
facetious.
into the definitions of happy and joy and happy and joy and how that relates to the truth. And oh gosh,
Yeah, but it's my truth.
Hey,
you have
Charlie,
to my truth.
If we were both back in the service and I asked you, are we having fun yet? Would you understand what I was talking about?
Oh, absolutely.
Would we really be having fun the way most people think?
Oh,
no.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd be having fun.
But in a service type of fun, we'd be having fun.
Very fun.
So y'all's fun would probably give me therapy. Got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Depending on whether or not you're the one directing the fun.
Right. Oh, yes. If you're directing
if you have enough on your
could
cover,
actually be kind of fun.
So it's Eltero says he's not happy right now. All right. Let's go to the bottom of the hour break. I want to talk to you about something else when we come back that hopefully actually you'll see the connection. So we'll see you in 3 minutes. All right, welcome back. So we're talking about truth. And how do you know what is and isn't true? The ability to think critically, to reason, and to evaluate, reasoning and critical thinking and critical evaluation of different ideas or different stories has by and large been removed from our society. It was done intentionally by our school system, our education system. And we've covered this in past shows as John Dewey and Woodrow Wilson started it, but William Ayres, Bill Ayres and his crew, Common Core crew, they put the final nails in our coffin. And they have helped to create a society that leads to, let's go back to the White House Correspondence shooting. I asked Charlie a question before the show started. Does that represent gross incompetence, or does it represent an intentional plan to allow somebody to get to and assassinate Trump? Is this done intentionally? Now, I don't know I don't know what to tell you. A lot of it's going to depend on your worldview and your presuppositions that you bring to this. But I'm going to bring something else to the table for you. Is this a generational thing starting to show itself? Is this the effect of DEI and all these other woke programs and this teaching people where they are no longer capable of doing this job competently because they just don't think or understand in those terms? And what do I mean by that? What our modern generations think is harsh and ugly and unnecessary, my generation saw as discipline that maintained order and it had a purpose. I gave Charlie an example before the show started. I was at Fort Benning, an Army camp, but the Marine Corps trains their tank mechanics there now. When I was in, we trained at at Aberdeen Army Depot up in Maryland, but they train in Fort Benning, Georgia now. So I was there visiting the Armor Museum in connection with my job, and the guy who runs the Armor Museum, he's a retired Marine major. We were both in Desert Storm together. And I saw a group of young Marines, about 13 of them, if I remember counting correctly, that went to dinner. They went to chow, lunch. And they just walked across the field in the direction of the chow hall. So I mooed at them. I moo as loud as I could. And they all stopped, turned around, and looked at me like I was some sort of idiot. And the major yelled at him because they knew the major. They had to work with him. That's part of their training. They got to go work in the restoration shops. And the major yelled back at them. He says, he thinks you look like a herd of cows. And the major said, so do I. And they just kind of waved us off and kept on going. In my day, if you had 3 or 4 Marines together, you formed up and you marched to chow, even on base, no matter what. It's what you did. And you didn't walk across the grass. You stayed on the sidewalks. Why? Today, we think that's stupid. Well, there's no reason for that. No. There were multiple reasons for that. It maintained a sense of order and discipline, a sense of propriety, and it also maintained a sense of small unit cohesion. Because when you drill together, you are subconsciously learning to move together as a unit, to operate as a unit, to work together as a unit. Which leads me to another story. In Grenada, back in the 80s, when we invaded the Marine Corps, they came up against a Cuban unit, a Cuban battalion. A company came up against a Cuban battalion. So you got about 160 Marines up against 800 Cubans, roughly. They were an engineering battalion. And the Marines moved up on them before the shooting even started. And the Cuban major surrendered without firing a shot. And when they asked him why, he said the Marines moved as one man. He said, my troops had no chance against them. He said, we might have done some harm, but we would have lost. We'd have been eliminated. And he wasn't going to sacrifice the lives of his people needlessly. Where do we think that moving of one man comes from? It came from the things that we instilled in ourselves all the time, constantly. And in the military, that's you fight as you train. So those Marines had lived together so tightly, so closely, done everything in unison for so long, they moved as a man with one mind. They already knew what their leaders wanted them to do. Didn't even need hand signals in a lot of cases, I guarantee you. All it took was a look. Okay, that's the difference between cultures in the generations. This generation today, from what I've been seeing, I observe, I watch when I'm out and about in town. They dismiss things that my generation would have never dismissed. They overlook it. They don't even see it. They don't think about it. It's nothing to them. It's meaningless. But it's not meaningless to us. It wasn't. We were raised very differently. So today the young people might tell me, well, you know, the old farts always say it was different or better in the past. That's just what y'all say. Oh, nay, 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 nay. I'm old enough to remember it is very different today than it was when I was growing up. Most of the people today would not be able to survive in the world in which I grew up. They're too addicted to their electronic devices and their social media. Like a lot of them have actually openly said, who would tell you what to think or what to do? Nobody told us what to think or what to do back then. We did that on our own. Okay. So you've lost initiative in our culture. So even if somebody in the shooting had seen something they thought might be wrong, they have been programmed not to make waves. That's what the woke culture does. The DEI assures that you put incompetent people in position because of the color of their skin. I don't care how they get there. That's incompetence. And then the woke culture makes sure that the competent ones that may have snuck in below them won't say anything. So you have created a structure, an organic structure that is inherently incapable of doing the job assigned to it without malice or intent. Y'all understand what I'm saying? You don't have to intentionally design this to let you don't have to say, okay, well, we're going to let this guy get through and try to kill the president. They didn't have to do that. It was built into the system. It's like I asked Charlie, how the heck did this shooter survive? What made him live? Why wasn't he killed? I mean, on the spot, when he blasted through the magnetometers, you don't stop, hold, whatever, you pop, 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 put 3-4 rounds right in center mass. If you find out later, well, you know, he was innocent. He wasn't trying to, dude, there is no innocent when you're dealing with presidential security and you blast past a security checkpoint. That's not innocent. If you really think that's okay and acceptable, dude, you belong in the top of the Darwin Awards for terminal stupidity. You don't deserve to breed and extend your genes pool into the species. And I'm being absolutely serious. I'm not being facetious. That person needs to be removed via Darwin. And if that's how they choose to remove themselves, is blasting through that checkpoint and getting shot, so be it. But we've created a society that would balk at what I'm saying right now. And I would be the one who's in the wrong. No, I'm not. See, because I want to preserve society. I want to preserve law and order. You don't. You want to preserve your peace of mind at all cost. That's anarchy. That's chaos. So how do we find truth in anything? And why is that important? Let me share something with you. Something that's going to be a big deal to you here real soon. Disclosure Day. It's a movie. They brought Spielberg out of retirement for this movie. I've been watching the previews. This has me hearing Dr. Carol Rosin's warning to us from Wernher von Braun loud and clear in my ears. The last artificial lie, the scare, it's not true, it's a lie, right before they clamp down on all of humanity forever and ever, amen, is going to be aliens. That's what this movie is about. This is predictive programming, getting you used to the lie that's about to come. And I do, in my opinion, I'm going to have to say it this way. In my opinion, this is going to be a lie. I do not believe they are extraterrestrials from a different planet. I've done some research on that. Our best understanding of physics says that that could not ever happen and never will. There's a lot of reasons. We can discuss that some other time, but it isn't going to happen. They're not going to get here, if they even exist. Contrary to popular opinion, the odds are they don't exist. So I'm going to go to this one next. Blaze Media, Glenn Beck. His mind is blown. What if aliens are really disembodied Nephilim? Billy Hallowell joins the program to unpack mind-bending alien theories that could explain alien encounters through a biblical lens. I'm sympathetic to this. I am. I think there's something to this. But everybody that's discussing it that I've seen so far, and I've been looking at this, of everybody I have seen discussing this subject, I have only found one man who discussed it in anything near a serious, rational way, and that was Dr. Michael Heiser, and he's now passed on due to pancreatic cancer. Everybody else, I can't help but I cannot shake the feeling that they're all in it for hype, clicks, notoriety. They've got the information correctly, but the way that they're presenting it, it just leaves me flat. So how do you know what's true and what isn't true in what they say? Now, if I hadn't done my own research on this hard for several years now, I have no doubt I'd be led astray by most of these things that are out there right now. Like all the talking heads talking about the Iran and the Iran war being the fulfillment of prophecy. It is, I have no doubt, but not in the way they're teaching, because they're only teaching one specific piece of the puzzle. They're not teaching the whole puzzle together. So are they deceived? Do they care? Are they teaching truth? I don't think so, not in my opinion. Why? Well, I'm not going to tell you I have it perfect, but I'm going to tell you I know more of the pieces of the puzzle than they're sharing with you. How do you know they're pieces of the puzzle, Joe? Because they tell you that they're pieces of the puzzle when you read them. So I accept what the prophet tells me. So Glenn Beck's talking about this. Whoops, that's not where I wanted to go with that. Excuse me, I apologize. This is where I wanted to go. Nobody's tying it to this. Return of the Gods by Jonathan Cahn. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. If you really want to get into this subject, you need to listen to or read The Portent and the Facade by Dr. Michael Heiser, and then listen to or read this book, Return of the Gods. Charlie, if they did that, do you think they might develop a fairly decent biblical perspective of why the aliens are disembodied Nephilim and fallen angels, watchers?
Oh, yeah.
Now, you think there's a nothing burger to this whole issue, or do you think there's something to it?
I have come to believe there's a lot to this. It makes much more sense than anything else that, kind of like you talk a lot about Occam's razor. This is Occam's razor here. It is the simplest and most likely correct,
most consistent, most coherent explanation as well.
Yes. It makes perfect sense.
Yep. But you have to understand how to divine truth. Not worldly truth, but biblical truth.
Oh, you mean the difference between the tree of knowledge and the tree of life?
Bingo.
Oh.
Okay. So I'm going to save those other videos that you saw just seconds, other clips. I'm going to save those probably for Thursday. I'm still not ready to teach Islam yet. But here's the thing. Just stay there, Charlie. I want to touch on this a little bit because I think this is going to be very, very, very important. putting aside what Werner von Braun told us, if we can accept what the Bible hints at and what the book of Enoch expands on, and what Jude and Paul, and to some extent even the Messiah, embraced and referenced in the Gospels and in their letters, then the fallen angels, called the Watchers in Enoch, the fallen angels are not imaginary, they're real. And from what we know of ancient times, some of them have a reptilian appearance, or can manifest themselves this way at any rate. They can also manifest themselves as appearing human. But the Bible also suggests they can manifest in other forms. Then you're going to have, if the pit is open, the Bible says the pit, the Tartarus, according to Peter, where everybody was locked up, bound at the cross. That's the Messiah binding the strong man so he can rob his house of souls. If that's true, now you have these disembodied spirits of the Nephilim who drowned in the flood or were killed. We're never told that an angel has the ability to possess your body. So this idea that Satan is going to be incarnate into a human body, that is not biblical. We are told that demons can possess your body, but a demon is not Satan. And when you study this issue of UFO abductions, it rings a lot of the old school's texts on spiritual possession, like you have a demon. Now, the lore behind all this is that 10% of the demons were left on the earth and 90% were locked up at the cross. If the pit is open, they're running around and they're fooling the nations. And what's their job? To convince you that nothing is true. It's to take you away from the Bible, but their job is to make you not know what's true and what isn't true. Their role is to torment and to turn people against each other and to destroy society, to destroy relationships, to cause chaos, and to utterly destroy any ability to discern truth from lie.
Their job is Bavel in the Hebrew. Confusion.
Babel, yeah. Confusion. Now that's the spirit's job. What's the fallen angel's job? Well, those are the henchmen of Satan. They're the lieutenants and the captains. Now, if they were to show up to world leaders and present themselves as aliens, what do you think these non-believing world leaders who already don't understand truth are going to do? They're going to accept.
Especially when they come and say, we're here to save mankind from themselves.
Yes.
We've seen these movies. I mean, they're all over the place. I'm watching a little series right now that's got an alien in it. And I mean, it's funny, but I mean, there's a lot of truth in it too, because, that's the way they operate, and
that was the whole central theme of the X-Files.
Well, yeah.
Now, what's this got to do with Return of the Gods? When you read and you check the information, the receipts that Khan brought to that book, when you read the book and you check his footnotes, he's going to show you that the god Baal, the god of war and thunder and might and material gain, has returned.
With
you have the Baal, the bull, right there on Wall Street.
Oh, but that's not an idol, Joe. It's just a statue.
Okay. Well, he's also going to show us that Astra has returned, Ishtar. And she is the goddess of fertility and androgyny and promiscuity and all of this mess. In parties, colorful parties, multiple colors, and just lewd and lascivious acts in public, right there in the street.
No,
and
you wouldn't put up with that.
It starts with Stonewall back in the ancient days.
Yeah.
What happened in New York at a place called Stonewall? Well, that's where your modern LGBT movement started. On the same days. and in much the same way. And now it pushes that androgynous, licentious lifestyle, exactly like Ishtar did. So now all we're missing is Moloch.
And Stonewall is now a historical monument, from my understanding, and Trump was trying to overthrow that, and he got shut down for it because there was such an outrage over that they backed off of it, from what I heard anyway.
Moloch, Baal, and Ishtar, the Astra, these are the three that caused Israel trouble in ancient times. The only one left is Moloch. And how do you recognize Moloch? Sacrifice your children. Pass them through the fire. Okay, so we abort the babies. Do y'all know what they do with most of the aborted tissue? They send it to our incinerators and turn it into electricity. They burn it. They pass our children through the fire. Well, Joe, it's not the exact same thing. It doesn't have to be. It's symbolic. It's the symbolism. So we have Moloch, Astra, and Baal has returned. Just like the Bible told us they would.
Yeah. And what is their overall purpose? It's to destroy mankind, because that's what they're...
specifically it's to destroy Israel.
Oh, well, yes, yes.
Israel's over in the Middle East. That's Judah.
Yeah,
Judah doesn't hold the birthright. They don't care about the birthright. They have to destroy the birthright.
Right.
Where does Moloch and Baal and Ishtar, where are they seem to be most centered, most prominent, and most active in the entire world? Right here in the United States of America. Why?
Yeah, in our original capital even.
Yes, New York City. Because we are the seat of Ephraim. Now, have we had the arches of Baal in New York and Washington, D.C.? Yep, they put up a replica of the arches of Baal. Yeah, they did. And we have all the symbology of Astra. That's what the gay pride flag is. Literally. If you go read the history of this stuff from ancient Babylon. And Moloch got that too. And now we've got all these little spirits running around. Do y'all know when all of this started? All of this started right around the end of World War II. Right in there with World War II. Now, everybody thinks that the CERN super collider opened a rift in the dimensions, and that's how all these devils and angels are coming back. I don't think so. I think this goes back to a little short guy with a bad mustache and a ticked off attitude toward Judah. Why would I say that? Because he was into the occult.
Oh, yes, he was.
Heavily into the occult. And his scientists, led by Werner von Braun, his space scientists, invented things that the Allied... You were in the Air Force, Charlie. You go back almost to the Army Air Force. Did you ever hear about Foo Fighters when you were in the Air Force?
Yeah, I've heard of them. I don't know that much about them, but yeah.
The group is named after these Foo Fighters. It's not the other way around. FOO Fighters, Foo Fighters. Heavily reported, especially if you can go find some of the after action reports from the bomber crews. These were flying objects, UFOs, that would fly around and shadow the bomber formations. They never attacked. But today we would call them UFOs. They moved in ways that the bomber crews said were impossible.
Impossible.
Folks, at the end of the war, we're talking about 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 bombers in a stream seeing these things, each bomber carrying up to 10 men. You could potentially have 20,000 men at a time coming back reporting these things. Men whose lives depended on being able to identify what that bleep that was out there flying around. Is it friend or foe? Do I need to shoot at it or not? So these are not casual observers. These are men who could identify an airplane at a split second as it flashed through the formation and tell you what type of plane it was. They'd been doing this it was life and death. They're reporting these things. Well, what's the big deal about that? Well, the very first UFO sighting in the history of the United States is not Roswell. It's Wright-Patterson Air Force Base with the flying Acorn. Well,
Yeah,
that
flying
is
bell.
the
Yep.
flying bell from
Yep.
the Nazis, which had cultic symbols along the outside of it. Now, this is where you got to be careful. This is why truth matters. I am not saying there's a connection. But these devices, and if you read the portent in the facade, they're going to give you some of the receipts to this. They show you where you can find the information in official military and government files for some of this. But we probably have had anti-gravity propulsion systems since World War II, thanks to the occultic Nazis. And the scientific data is in those two books by Heiser. His books are a lot like Crichton. It's faction. But one of these scientists who has just disappeared in a weird way, you know, these now up to 13 scientists connected with the NASA labs. One of hers was that she was being chased and threatened, and she had to publish on her anti-gravity propulsion information soon. Now, Matt Walsh did a story on this where he makes her look like a kook by playing some of her videos. And yes, she may be kook, but now let me ask you something. If you are actually on to something like this, and it is that important, and you're trying to get it right, so you can't just put it out there right now, you're trying to button it down, and people are after you, and you're trying to protect yourself by going on public media and telling everybody, hey, they're after me, this is what's going on, if something happens to me, blah, are you not going to sound paranoid? Yeah, you are going to sound like a kook. That doesn't mean that she was a kook. Now, Matt Walsh did okay with that video, but he left his audience with the impression that all these people disappearing just coincidences. He said there's a few of them we should look at, but most of them are just coincidences, like that 2-star general that disappeared. He went hiking, he left all of his things at home, and all he took with him was a pistol, so he either went out and fell off a cliff or shot himself, and nobody's found it. He might have carried that pistol for another reason, self-defense. There's another lady who is a 60-something-year-old woman connected with these things too. She went hiking. Well, Matt Walsh says, well, she might have just fallen off in a crevice. Well, she was an experienced hiker. This story was covered by the Hayden and the Lore Lodge crew. And Hayden is very good at hunting these things down. It's what the Lore Lodge does, these missing people reports. And he's a skeptic. He even said that they should have found this woman. She went missing in an area that's flat and slopes fairly smoothly downhill to a creek, and there's no ledge to fall off of. And she was with other people when she went missing. She just poofed into thin air. Okay, well, that doesn't match what Matt Walsh told his audience. These people are all working in areas that are potentially connected to quote-unquote UFOs. This goes back in a long stream of unbroken connections all the way back to Paperclip and to the Nazis and the occult. And this is when UFO sightings and abduction stories start. It's also when, right in the same time frame, that Judah returns to the land of Israel. If that is when the pit opened, Ephraim did its job, recognized Judah, brings back the Holy Land, and from this point forward, we are in decline, just like the Northern Kingdom was because of its apostasy. Then this fits. It fits the narrative in the facade and the portent. I told you Michael Heiser was the most serious person telling this story that I've encountered. You might want to go listen to those books on audio or read them. If this subject interests you at all. Have you read them yet, Charlie?
Oh yes, they're I hope the ghost author does actually finish
the third one.
Yeah, because oh my gosh, that's some stuff, you know, there's too much there for it just to be science.
Yeah,
fiction.
And one of the
It's
things he talks
faction.
about, nanobots create a very lifelike body. It's not alive, but it feels alive. It's warm and everything else. And what happens is when the nanobots dissolve, they just leave a puddle of water in the bed.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll say, well, that's just science fiction. Except that Michael Crichton wrote a book called Prey back in the 90s, where they already had nanobot technology that could alter your face. And the nanobots powered themselves off of you. So eventually they killed you because they were using you as the power source, but they could make you look like a different person. with nanobot technology. Literally look like a different person. Pass computer facial recognition. This technology has been around for over 30 years, folks. See, that's what Michael Crichton was famous for, is telling you the truth of what's going on through his faction books. Just like you might want to go if you've never read it, you might want to go read Jurassic Park. The star of that book was actually the character of Malcolm. The movie's underplayed Malcolm. Malcolm's the star of that book because he's talking about randomness and chaos. The argument in that book is brilliant. It just wouldn't play in a movie. So, and it's connected. It's connected to all of this. There's something here. How can we even talk about it anymore? It's too easy to dismiss things as chaos theory. There's no way to discern truth. So what happens is the devil himself could walk right down Main Street and people would not only not notice him, they'd call him Messiah.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add before I wrap it up, Charlie?
Well, you know, we've got all these denominations out there and such. And, you know, we've had this discussion many times and such, you know, and this is really our challenge. Will the real Messiah please stand up? That's our challenge. We've got to, from all these, you know, presentations of their ideas of who Messiah and what Messiah is, we've got to figure this out for ourselves so that we can recognize this individual, so that we're not deceived by these false messiahs that will come. I mean, it's been predicted that, you know, there's going to be many that are going to come along, and we've got to be able to sort this out. And that's kind of what you're talking about today, is figuring out what the truth is.
In Leviticus, Yahweh says, I give them these things so I can see and test them. Are they going to walk in my statutes? In the Psalms, it says, you obey him as proof that you know him. Obedience is proof that you know him. And in the New Testament, it says, if you love him, you'll obey him.
Mm-hmm.
And righteousness is defined as obedience. And yet somewhere, someone, somehow along the line teaches that you don't have anything to obey anymore. It's almost like they want to change the law. The scripture says, keep his Sabbaths as a sign that you belong to him. The Moedim. That's been moved and changed too.
Yep.
If only the scriptures had warned us of a spiritual being that would come along and try to change the times and the law.
If only.
Oh, wait a minute. That's exactly what Daniel said the prince who is to come is going to do. So if Christianity replaced Judaism and it changes the time and the law, are you sure you're following the right Messiah? I'm not teaching Judaism either, because Orthodox Judaism is legalism. You have to earn your way to heaven.
They can't do math either. The Christians can't do math. And, you know, I'm working on this little message for Shabbat. The rabbinic
Orthodox Jews don't do math either.
They don't do math right either. It's in there. It's in the word. If you just run the math equations, it's there.
So to bring this to this show's point, central focus, the founding fathers, if you can't figure out something as important as Yahweh's word in the scriptures, what makes you think modern man's going to understand the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, which were both predicated upon the scriptures?
Yeah.
And if you can't understand the Declaration and the Constitution, what makes you think you can understand anything that's happening in our political world today?
Yeah.
And if you want to understand it, but you can't discern truth from a lie, or worse, truth from a half-truth, where do you go and what do you do? I guess you just throw your hands up in the air and give up, right? That's exactly what the enemy wants you to do.
Wants you to do. Yep. Exactly. But it's hard, Joe. It's a lot of work.
Yes. But luckily, again, the Messiah told us if you follow him, everything will be easy. You don't have to give up your life. You can be happy, healthy, prosperous, free of disease, and everything will be peaches and roses. Wait a minute.
That's another Messiah.
Yeshua HaMashiach didn't say that, did he? He said
No.
that if I follow him, I'm going to have trials and tribulations, thlipsis, tribulations,
Yep.
and that the world's going to hate me.
Gonna hate
And my
you.
family is going to leave me because of it. And my friends will reject me, and I might even be flogged, beaten, killed. Oy. Luckily, though, we can go with what is said, because the Messiah never ever told us to go by what was written instead of what was said. Oh, wait a minute. I think he said the opposite of that, too. If you read your
many
Bible,
people misinterpret that when he says, you have heard it said that. Whenever you think that, you should be thinking oral traditions.
Yes, oral traditions.
And then he usually ends up saying, but it is written that.
Yeah. I've kind
Pay
of
attention to
condensed
that
it,
wording.
but
Yeah.
yeah, he does. We paraphrase it for him, but he does seem to end up getting to that point. The reason I point you to the scriptures, if you understand them in their original Near Eastern Torah observant context, that's not only going to give you a source for natural world truth, it'll also give you a source for moral truth. And everything else can be derived from those 2 points. If you doubt me, just study the first 2 chapters of Romans for a while. Both points are right there. And coincidentally, that's where John Locke got his first and second treatise of government. Not my opinion, John Locke's assertion. Him, the man who wrote the books, says that's where he got them from. All right, we're going to get out of here. We thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time. We hope that we improve your life, help you to think for yourself. Don't need you to agree with us. We will require you to give us a sound, valid, and rational argument if you disagree with us, so that we can evaluate it and see whether or not we need to move our positions, our opinions, or if maybe we can help you with your argument, maybe evaluate it where we think it might be weak. But you don't have to agree with us. We're not looking for that. However, if you do want to come on here and comment or whatever, just to be a troll and disrupt the board, yeah, I will tell you I'm a comment Nazi there. No comment for you. And I will tell our AI to snipe you and get rid of you. If your sole purpose is clearly to disrupt the board or promote or advertise your agenda, yes, we will silence that. But if you come on here civilly, we will allow you, even if we totally disagree with you. There are certain people that will tell you, I don't do that. Well, yeah, that's because they're intellectually dishonest and their sole purpose is to disrupt the discussion. It's been proven to us through their actions. So we're fair, but we don't invite a cancer into what we're trying to make a healthy body. I don't mind if you disagree. Do it civilly and rationally. We'll get along. We hope that we give you a different way of looking at things to help you think clearly, more rationally, more compare and contrast, more objectively, critically, to analyze things so that you can make up your own mind. Because ultimately, we don't want you to think the way we do. The scripture tells us that each of us has to have a defense for our faith for ourselves. We have to defend our faith. Why do we believe? Well, around here, I extend that principle. You need to explain your worldview. Why do you believe the things you believe for yourself? Because if you can't explain it, you don't believe it. And if you don't believe it, it's going to cause you trouble in your own life. So work that out. Make sure you have a fairly consistent and coherent worldview of the things you believe. It will make for a more stable platform for you to stand on and give you more self-assuredness, more confidence, more security. It'll help act as a bulwark against unnecessary fear or anxiety because you have something solid to which you can cling and you can ignore the world around you. If you have taken the time to work out your worldview and the world starts hammering and you just say, hey, you guys don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what see you later. Go on. I don't need it. You'll find other like-minded people. It's one of the reasons we have the discussion board, the chat. I mean, it's on Signal, but that keeps everything private. So nobody can read what we're talking about, just us. It's encrypted. So we're doing the best we can to grow a community here. It'll always be small, but that's a good thing. You get to know each other, really honestly know each other, especially if you participate in the comments. What I started out to do, I realized I started out to do the wrong thing here with this show. What I changed my mind and started aiming for, I think we've already started to achieve it. I'm happy now. I just hope we help you, and I hope eventually others here and there, ones and twos, will find us and that we'll be able to serve and help them as well. So to that extent, hit the like buttons if you like what we're doing. That's a witness to whoever stumbles across us that, yeah, the audience likes what they're doing. Share the show if you'd like. It's up to you. It helps others find us. Introduce me any way you feel like you need to. But if you do stumble across us and you like what we're doing, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell so that you'll see when we put up new content. Other than that, we love each and every one of you. We hope that you'll stay safe until we meet again. Tomorrow, we're back in Genesis. Wednesday, we're in Jeremiah. Thursday, got something else I want to talk to you about, political in nature, but connected to the law and honoring the threat. That'll probably be the title Thursday, Honor the Threat. Because we're being told right now, we have America's version of Mein Kampf everywhere. And if we had paid attention to Mein Kampf before World War II, we might not have had to fight that war. But nobody honored the threat. They thought that the little ugly dude with the bad mustache was just nobody to worry about. Look what that caused. Well, we've got something even worse going on in the United States right now, and nobody's paying attention. We're going to discuss that Thursday. Friday, we're back in the book, Alan's book, The Scepter and the Birthright. So that's our lineup for the week. So until we see you again, y'all stay safe, take care. We love you. Bye-bye.